Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I sat down in front of the Netflix. I opened it up and they put up a big box. Andrew Santino Cheeseburger premieres on Netflix today, Tuesday. And I was like, wait, what? Maybe I'm just getting forgetful. Maybe you guys can tell me on social media. John, you mentioned it last week. I was like, this special exists? Apparently it exists. And quirk of the calendar, if I do watch it tonight, it will be temporarily ranked my number one special of 2023. Who knows? It could hold the title for the entire year, but I haven't watched any specials yet. Andrew Santino, Cheeseburger on Netflix today. From Pix11, the wonderful headline, Joe Rogan Podcast sparks Wooly Mammoth fossil hunt in East River. There's a treasure hunt in the waters of the East River off the Manhattan shoreline, for those of you not from New York City. The treasure hunt has been prompted by a report by a prominent fossils collector on the Joe Rogan Experience. The search is for woolly mammoth tusks, thousands of them, allegedly dumped in the East River in the first half of the 20th century. Each tusk could be worth thousands of dollars if they're actually there. Alaska businessman and bone collector John Reeves was on the Joe Rogan Experience. Reeves said, "This is going to be a bone rush." He was reading a draft report from the American Museum of Natural History. The report, according to Reeves, said that some 500,000 mammoth tusks were dumped at a precise location along the East River between 1928 and 1958, but mainly around 1940. That's a 30-year gap, but, most of them around 1940. And I'm not a mammoth expert. Did we have 500,000 mammoth tusks at one point? We did? Yeah. I like this sentence from Pix11 because I'm from New York. The report reads, the East River Drive and 65th Street is the alleged location. Pix11 clarifies that that's what the FDR Drive was called before it was changed. If you're from New York, it's not crazy that you would call it the East River Drive. I heard that a lot growing up in the 70s and the 80s. I guess most people these days would refer to the highway as the FDR. But if you told me take the East River Drive, I wouldn't be like, what are you talking about? I digress, but if you're from New York City, you're like, I hear you. Although, a lot of people from New York City these days are not like from my New York City, and they'll use words like RFK Bridge. That's not a thing. It's the Triborough, folks. I really digress. Despite all this fun, the American Museum of Natural History says they have no record of any such disposal, including no record of a paper published that alleges this. Rogan was on with Tim Dillon this week. A very good listen. Dillon, I usually like when he just monologues and clowns more so than his interview episodes, but I know a lot of people don't like Joe Rogan. I find Joe Rogan just interesting. That doesn't mean I agree or I go, yes, Joe, whatever you say, I completely will follow your lead. I just find Rogan interesting. And Dillon was in serious for Tim Dillon mode. I thought it was a really interesting conversation. So that's Tim Dillon's podcast, which, as I always qualify, someday Tim Dillon's going to step on a landmine and I will deny that I ever told you to listen to that podcast. I have not yet listened to, but I just saw Mark Maron has Katt Williams on this week. The description for the episode is really interesting. Katt tells Mac about his travels as a teenager, trying to make it on his own in Florida. Okay. Katt recalls the days he was opening for comedians like, you're not going to get this, Katt Williams, right? You picture Katt Williams act. Katt Williams was opening for comedians like Jeff Foxwrothy and Dan Whitney back before Dan segued into the Larry the Cable Guy persona. Wow. Also one of Katt Williams' inspirations, Don Knotts. I got to check that out for sure. The trailer for Jim Gaffigan's movie Linoleum is out. The description, Cameron Edwin, played by Jim Gaffigan. Cameron is the host of a failing children's science TV show called Above and Beyond. Cameron has always had aspirations of being an astronaut after a mysterious space race era satellite coincidentally falls from space and lands in his backyard. Cameron's midlife crisis manifests in a plan to rebuild the machine into his dream rocket. I feel like we've seen this movie 500 times, but hey, why not? Here's the twist. Ready? Spoilers? Surreal events begin unfolding around Cameron, including a doppelganger moving into the house next door, a car falling from the sky, and an unusual teenage boy forging a friendship with him. He slowly starts to piece these events together to ultimately reveal there's more to his life story than he once thought. Linoleum, out February 24th, stars Jim Gaffigan. Another movie, Bert Kriescher's The Machine. We have a release date, finally, May 26th. That's Memorial Day weekend, if I'm guessing correctly. Very exciting. If you listen to my podcast, you probably know about The Machine, but in case you don't, in his stand-up act, Bert talks about how he accidentally enrolled in a Russian language class, meaning to take Spanish, but was forced by his professor to see it all the way through. Bert then tells a story about a semester abroad in Russia, where he accidentally befriends Russian mobsters. He ends up getting drunk with them, robbing train passengers, and his bond with them is formed by the only words he knew in Russian, which were, I am the machine. Well, in the movie, Bert Kriescher's 23 years older when an alcoholic Russian mobster comes back to his life to kidnap Bert and make him pay for his past deeds. That's awesome. Another ghost from his sordid past arrives in the form of his estranged father, played by Mark Hamill. I can't wait for that movie. Eye-opening headline from Kumail Nanjiani, this in the Hollywood Reporter. Kumail said, "I think that Hollywood now, even though they're trying to be more diverse, is still weird." Kumail believes that good intentions can sometimes lead to misguided solutions. If the bad guy is a brown guy, what message is that sending? And that's just as limiting as anything else. I want to play more bad guys. He's an example Sebastian Stan, who plays Marvel superhero Winter Soldier, as well as a cannibal in the 2022 movie Fresh. Kumail says, he does these big Marvel movies and they don't play a psychopath. I was told that's going to be hard because people don't want to cast non-white people as bad guys. Emily Ratajkowski has made it back to Gossip Corner, but Pete Davidson not involved. No, she's dating another comedian, apparently, according to TMZ. She was seen out to dinner Saturday night with Eric Andre. TMZ says they appeared to be super into each other, walking with their arms around one another as they shuttled between a couple stops. TMZ says they were told the couple hit up Japanese hotspot Sakagura in Midtown Manhattan and dined there for not one, not two, but 3 hours. That's a long dinner, huh? The Guardian reported on a show called Deep Fake Neighbor Wars. They say the show, in a nutshell, is this. We meet a bunch of celebrities who all live like normal people in normal homes, bickering with their neighbors, who also happen to be celebrities. Except the faces of the performers are obscured by photorealistic images of the celebs. The effect is eerily seamless. Turn on an episode by mistake, you'll wonder why Spider-Man Tom Holland has decided to slum it on an ITV sketch show. I saw stills from this. It looks like Harry Kane. It looks like Idris Elba. Apparently, it looks like Tom Holland, but it's all deep fakes. Kind of interesting. That's called Deep Fake Neighbor Wars. And I cannot wait for San Francisco Sketch Fest to get rolling January 20th through February 5th, because the comedy news has been a little thin so far in 2023. That is a seasonal thing that happens every year. I like what they're doing. They're going to live stream some of the shows at moment.co/sfsketchfest. So if you can't make it out to San Francisco, here are some of the shows that will be available for the live stream. Sketchfest Roast of Bruce Campbell. That should be a good time. The Viva Variety 25th Anniversary Tribute. Judge John Hodgman's Show. Varietopia with Paul F. Tompkins and more. And Hello from the Magic Tavern. Sketchfest is really awesome. If you are anywhere near San Francisco, I would highly encourage you to check out at least some of the shows. I did it, it's probably 10 years ago now, maybe even more, but really good time there. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you here tomorrow.
Hello, I am Mark Francis, host of a daily podcast about the British royal family called Palace Intrigue. Did you see what Meghan Markle did in her latest documentary? Or what Prince Harry said in his new book? Well, the kings and queens and princes and princesses are ready to explode. Andrew is ready to implode. Royal sources are jumping at the bit. The in-laws just can't stop. The UK tabloids are about to burst. Americans can't get enough. The kids can't get any cuter. The press can't get any uglier. And Wills and Kate? Well, they're just wonderful. Get your daily dose of gossip and news from the world's most royal family. Follow Palace Intrigue on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your shows.